for his statement, and I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, of course, we sincerely express our condolences to the governments and peoples of the United States and Indonesia concerning the tragedies that have taken place. We thank Mr. Lowcock for his comprehensive briefing. We very much appreciate and highly value the work of the UN's humanitarian agencies, in particular when it is done impartially with strict observance of the UN's principles for the provision of humanitarian assistance. Against a backdrop of the successful liberation from terrorists of vast areas of Syria, there are ongoing efforts to restore normal life in the country and for the return of refugees and internally displaced persons. Together, collectively, and energetically, we must assist these processes and not obstruct them under politicized pretexts or set dozens of, to put it mildly, incomprehensible conditions. The efforts, this was the aim of the Russian initiative to convene an international conference on Syrian refugees. The authorities in Damascus have given security guarantees to those who want to return home and are working on the legislative basis that would facilitate their rapid reintegration. There is an ever greater flow of Syrians returning from Lebanon. Just look at the effect that came from the opening up of the Nasib crossing on the Syria-Jordanian border. People on both sides of that border have been waiting impatiently for several years for this road artery to come back online, which supports regional trade and human links. These steps deserve to be wholeheartedly encouraged because they facilitate the implementation of a fundamental principle of stabilizing the situation in the Middle East, namely establishing good neighborliness. The implementation of the memorandum on the stabilization of the situation in the Idlib de-escalation zone, which was signed following the Russian-Turkish high-level agreement, is proceeding successfully. Our Turkish partners are doing everything that depends upon them for the withdrawal of groups and their heavy weapons from the demilitarized zone. At the same time, groups that are based there are continuing to violate the conditions of the agreement by shelling nearby towns and villages. Once again, there are reports of suspicious movements of Nusra fighters and white helmets with toxic substances. In this respect, we must recall that the agreements on de-escalation were temporary in nature, and the objective of eliminating the terrorist presence in Syria has not been taken off the agenda by anyone. If provocations from radical elements persist, Russia reserves the right to support the effective actions of the Syrian government to eliminate hotbeds of terrorism. We share the concerns of the Secretary General concerning the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Rukban, and in general, improving the humanitarian situation in Syria would be made easier if the coalition stopped violating the sovereignty of the Syrian Arab Republic through its illegal presence. And here I have in mind, in particular, in the south, the Al-Tanf base that everybody knows about, and also the presence in the northeast, east of the Euphrates. And in general, the economic activity in these areas, which are illegally occupied without coordination with the government of the Syrian Arab Republic, is raising many, many questions. On the 27th of October in Istanbul, there was a meeting of the leaders of Russia, Turkey, Germany, and France, on the outcome of which a joint statement was adopted. We thank the President of Turkey for this important unifying initiative. The participants in the summit expressed a common stance on cooperation with a view to further normalizing the situation in Syria, the conditions for which were established in the framework of the Astana format through the efforts of Russia, Turkey, and Iran. There was an expression of commitment to a political settlement under UN auspices in accordance with Security Council Resolution 2254, with full respect for the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Syria. Incidentally, at the summit in Istanbul, there was a discussion of questions of interaction between the Astana process and the so-called small group. There was recognition of the importance of launching work of the Constitutional Committee on the basis of the decision of the Syrian National Dialogue Congress in Sochi. We expect that with the right conditions, it will be able to begin its work by the end of this year. But professionals will understand that in order to be effective and viable, this structure must be recognized as legitimate by all parties. It is important for everybody to understand that responsibility for the fate of Syria is borne by its people. They, during the dialogue, need to determine all of the aspects related to the state's organization. After so many years of war, the country, one way or another, will have to go through a process of national reconciliation. And Syria has always shown a very high level of national coherence, and the UN, the international community, and the Friends of Syria can help, but imposing upon Syrians ultimatums, off-the-shelf decisions, and extreme deadlines is incorrect and will not work. And work on all regional situations demonstrates that imposing anything is a mistaken methodology. And answering the many questions that I've received today, I will tell you, distinguished members of the Security Council, that in a few minutes' time, as an official document of the Security Council, the joint statement of the leaders of the 4 participants in the summit in Istanbul will be circulated as an official document, and that will provide thorough, exhaustive answers. We thank the Security Council members that supported the joint statement and thereby confirmed their stance on the constructive pursuit of a political settlement to the conflict in the Syrian Arab Republic. I would like to draw the attention of those colleagues who continue to use terminology such as the Syrian regime, that this contradicts all resolutions of the Security Council which refer solely to the government of the Syrian Arab Republic, demanding a respectful approach. And this would also help to make progress on the political process. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation for his